Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Parliament adjourned. Sine die. Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu recounts the highs and lows of the Rajya Sabha during the winter session, says legislatures, including Parliament, need to improve functioning to meet the needs of the country. Union budget to be presented in Parliament on February 1st. Budget session to be held from January 29 till April 6th, with a one-month break for standing committees to scrutinize budget proposals. Session concludes without anti-triple talaq bill being passed in Rajya Sabha. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anant Kumar says government will try to take up the bill during the budget session. Prime Minister Narendra Modi asks officers in charge of backward districts to make pioneering innovations, says it is a privilege to work in these districts and bring about positive change, furthering his vision of a new India. And GDP growth estimated to slow down to 6.5% in the current fiscal. However, the country's chief statistician says it could pick up in the next quarter. Well, the Rajya Sabha was adjourned sine die on Friday, with the Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu urging members to seriously introspect their conduct in the House, which lost almost 34 hours due to frequent disruptions. The Rajya Sabha, which had 13 sittings during the winter session, passed 9 bills. The chairman also said that despite discharging its responsibilities, the House ends up losing some of its esteem due to disruptions. He stressed that Parliament is an important institution to further shared socio-economic goals of the nation and urged members to introspect.
Announcing the close of the winter session, Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu gave an eloquent message to the members of the upper house. Describing Parliament as a political institution, he said it cannot be an extension of politics in the typical sense, marked by deep divisions and acrimony. He urged members to review, recall and introspect about how the proceedings of the House were conducted.
Parliament is an important institution for furthering the shared socio-economic goals of the nation, which are critical to fulfilling the aspirations of the citizens, who are the chief patrons of our parliamentary democracy. Our nation is steadily evolving towards realizing its immense untapped potential. I have said in my first address to this august House that it's not on our side that we need to stretch ourselves to make up for the missed opportunities and time. The legislature of our country, including the Apex Parliament, need to quickly evolve in the way we conduct our proceedings so as to meet the needs of our evolving nation.
Chairman Naidu also stressed that not disruptions but intense and passionate submissions and debates are the order of democracy. He commended the House for speaking in one voice on larger issues of common concern.
The high point being that both sides of the House have reiterated their commitment to respect and uphold the high office of the Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable former Prime Minister and other dignitaries. I sincerely hope that this spirit prevails in future as well. Another high point of this session being the way in which all sections of the House spoke in one voice in a restrained way regarding Sri Kulbhushan Jadhav meeting his family members in a Pakistani jail.
Chairman Naidu also thanked the leader of the Rajya Sabha, leader of opposition, the deputy chairman and the panel of vice chairman, ministers of parliamentary affairs, leaders of various parties and members for their cooperation and courtesies to him. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the fate of the anti-triple talaq bill remained undecided as the government and opposition could not reach a consensus on the final day of the winter session. While the Congress stood its ground demanding that the proposed legislation be sent to a select committee, the government insisted that it was not needed.
I have already made an observation on this.
The last day of the winter session of Parliament concluded on Friday without passing the anti-triple talaq bill in Rajya Sabha. Earlier, both BJP and the Congress reportedly issued whips to their MPs to be present in the House just in case the bill was taken up. Although it was listed in the Rajya Sabha's agenda, it didn't come up due to the deadlock between the government and opposition. While the opposition led by the Congress stuck to its demand to refer the bill to the select committee, the government was adamant that it was not needed.
मुस्लिम बहनों को, मुस्लिम महिलाओं को न्याय, सम्मान और समानता ये दिलवाना चाहते हैं और कांग्रेस के साथी इसका पुरजोर विरोध कर रहे हैं, इसमें गतिरोध पैदा कर रहे हैं और दोनों सदनों में दोहरे नीति वो अपना रहे हैं.
Addressing a press conference, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anand Kumar said the government will try to take up the bill during the budget session. However, he remained non-committal about the possibility of an ordinance on the bill. Opposition parties, on the other hand, demanded detailed deliberations on the criminality clause.
इसलिए हम उम्मीद करते हैं जो जनमानस है और आक्रोश है, जनाग्रह है, उसके कारण कांग्रेस को पुनर्विचार करना होगा और बजट सत्र में ये ट्रिपल तलाक की बिद्दत को खारिज करने वाली हमारी इस बिल को वो पूरा समर्थन देना हो.
इस बिल के हक में है जिसमें 3 तलाक को खत्म किया जा रहा, उसके हक में हम ये स्पष्ट करना चाहता हूं. लेकिन इसमें जो कुछ प्रोविजन है उसमें आपत्ति है.
The Lok Sabha has already passed the bill by voice vote. The bill criminalizes instant triple talaq among Muslims. Panchanan Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
But on the last day of the winter session, Rajya Sabha MPs also bid farewell to 3 retiring members, Janardhan Dwivedi, Parvez Hashmi and Karan Singh. Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu mentioned their contribution to the House. All are Rajya Sabha MPs from Delhi and their tenure is ending on the 27th of January. Leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Ghulam Nabi Azad, and Union Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad conveyed their best wishes to the members. Speaking in the House, retiring MP Karan Singh expressed concern over the level of discussions in the Parliament and the stalemate between the government and the opposition in the House.
आज हम 3 वरिष्ठ और हमारा जो साथी है उनको सदन से हम लोग विदाई दे रहे और मुझे एक विषय स्मरण में आ रहा है. मैं अध्यक्ष बन के केवल 6 महीने हो गया. इस बीच में कभी भी किसी विषय में बारे में ये दोनों महानुभावों को कभी नहीं बैठिए सुनिए तो ऐसा आगे बढ़िए मत ऐसा कहने का कभी मौका मिला नहीं. तो यू अंडरस्टैंड द मैसेज. मैं पहले राजनीति में था तो अद्वानी जी हमेशा बताते थे हमको भाई आइडियोलॉजी इज इम्पॉर्टेंट बट आइडियल बिहेवियर इज मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट. तो इन दोनों को देख के आइडियल बिहेवियर का कितना प्रभाव होता है हम लोग समझ सकते हैं. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप दोनों को और हमारा अश्मी जी आज अनुपस्थित है उनको भी हमारा ओर से सभी सदन के ओर से शुभकामनाएं.
Parliament has evolved, sir, over these 50 years, but not all the changes have been positive, I must say. I mean, I used to remember when I went to the Lok Sabha first, there were brilliant debates with Hiren Mukherjee, with Madhur Lemai, with Nath Pai, with Atalji, and here Bhupesh Gupta. Those sort of debates now seem to me to be becoming rarer, and the disruptions are becoming more frequent. So all I would say is that I think we need to do a little retrospection to see what we can do to assure that the parliamentary system functions according to the rules and positive.
यहाँ हम जो बैठे हैं असल में जिनकी वजह से बैठे हैं वो बाहर हैं. इसलिए मैं नहीं मानता कि यहाँ से जाने के बाद क्षेत्र कम होता है. मुझे लगता है क्षेत्र बहुत बड़ा होता है. मेरे सभी साथी जानते हैं कि कम से कम इन 57 वर्षों में मुझे समय की कमी महसूस हुई है. कभी ये महसूस नहीं हुआ कि मैं क्या करूं. यहां से जाता हूं तो अपने काम में डूब जाता हूं. मैं तो ये भी चाहता हूं जब लोगों को लगे कि हमें रिटायर होना चाहिए तो दलों की सीमा छोड़कर अगर कुछ लोग आए और समाज और देश की बातें ईमानदारी से कहें तो भी देश का बड़ा भला हो जाएगा। आपकी शैली में कहूं, संसद वालों में थोड़ा मुझे भी कष्ट होता है और आपकी शैली में कह रहा हूं, जब विवेक तंत्र की जगह स्वर यंत्र अधिक प्रबल हो जाता है तो कोई मर्यादा मंत्र काम नहीं आता।
Meanwhile, the government has termed the just concluded winter session successful. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anant Kumar said that despite repeated disruptions, Lok Sabha accomplished 91.58% work, while Rajya Sabha accomplished 56.29%. During the winter session, Lok Sabha passed 13 bills, while the Rajya Sabha passed 9. The Rajya Sabha also created 2 records when on January 2nd it took up all starred questions during question hour and completed all 0-hour business and special mentions. Here's more.
The winter session of Parliament proved to be special in many ways. Even as the Rajya Sabha saw a number of disruptions, it also created new records. In its 13 sittings, the upper house passed 9 bills, while 19 private members' bills were tabled. And the house also held in-depth discussions on the state of the economy and the National Capital Region's pollution woes. On January 2nd, it created a record of taking up all the listed business and starred questions in 0-hour and question hour.
During the 4 days and question hour was taken up, 46 starred questions were orally answered. Besides 51 members making 0-hour submissions and another 50 members making special mentions on matters of public importance. It is, however, a matter of deep discomfort that the House has lost 34 hours of valuable working time as against the period of 41 hours of business transacted.
Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan also called this session successful. She thanked the Prime Minister and the opposition for its cooperation in running the House. The time lost to uproar was also somewhat made up when the House sat for an extra 8 hours. Of the 14 bills introduced in the House, 13 were passed. In the 13 sittings, 61 hours of work was done. Among the bills passed in the lower house were the ones pertaining to triple talaq, salaries of Supreme Court and High Court judges, and supplementary demand for grants. Besides this, the House also held a short duration discussion on Cyclone Okhi and its aftermath.
शाम को देर तक बैठकर लगभग 198 अविलंबनीय लोकमत जिसको आप 0 आवर भी जैसे कहते हैं और मैटर ऑफ अर्जेंट पब्लिक इम्पोर्टेंस ये उठाए गए। 377 के अंतर्गत 226 मामले भी उठाए गए।
Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anant Kumar also termed the winter session a successful one, saying that the Parliament accomplished a lot.
8 वर्किंग डेज में 22 बिल निकालना मैं सभी पार्टियों को और सभी सांसदों को इसका श्रेय देता हूं और उन सबको मैं धन्यवाद प्रेषित करता हूं।
The winter session of Parliament began on December 15th, even though the government had said that bills related to triple talaq and the OBC Commission were its priority. Both bills could not be passed in this session. With inputs from Ravindra Shoran and Panjanad Mishra, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the dates for the budget session of Parliament were also announced today. The first phase of the budget session will start from January 29th to February 9th. The Union budget will also be presented in this phase on February 1st. Parliament will convene after a recess from March 5th to April 6th. President Ramnath Kovind will address the joint sitting of the two houses on January 29th. The economic survey will also be tabled on the same day.
फर्स्ट पार्ट बजट सेशन का फर्स्ट पार्ट 29 जनवरी से शुरू होगा और 9 फरवरी तक चलेगा और रिसेस होगी 10 फरवरी से 4 मार्च तक। 5 मार्च से फिर से हमारा सेकेंड पार्ट शुरू होगा बजट सत्र का, वो 6 अप्रैल तक चलेगा। कुल मिलाकर के 31 दिन का सत्र होगा।
Well, the new calendar 2018 brought out by the Rajya Sabha was also released on Friday. Deputy Chairman P.J. Kurian unveiled the calendar on the insistence of Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu. The chairman said Professor Kurian is shouldering substantial responsibility of presiding over the House and therefore it is appropriate for him to release the calendar. Deputy Chairman P.J. Kurian presented the first copy of the calendar to the Chairman and Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu. The calendar has pictures of 12 world leaders who addressed members of both houses in the Central Hall of Parliament between 1955 and 2010.
I am happy to inform the honourable members that the Rajya Sabha Secretariat has brought out a new calendar 2018 on a novel theme of the top leaders of various countries who have addressed the honourable members of both the Houses of Parliament in the Central Hall of Parliament since 1955. The calendar has photographs of 12 such leaders. I compliment the Secretary General and his team of officers and also the workers for this initiative.
In other top news now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stressed on the all-round and inclusive development of backward districts. He said that even in the states with strong development indicators, there will be areas that need a greater push. He was addressing a conference on transformation of aspirational districts organized by Niti Aayog in Delhi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has asked officials in charge of 115 backward districts to come up with pioneering innovations in the less developed districts. He also asked officers to include backward districts in the mainstream development of the country. PM was addressing a conference on transformation of aspirational districts organized by the Niti Aayog. Modi also interacted with officials in charge of transformation of the districts.
अब सामाजिक न्याय बस सिर्फ एक सामाजिक व्यवस्था तक ही सीमित रहने से होता नहीं है। क्षेत्र विशेष का भी पीछे रह जाना एक अन्याय का कारण होता है। कोई गांव पीछे रह जाए तो वो सिर्फ एक गांव, एक एंटिटी के रूप में पीछे ऐसा नहीं है। वहां रहने वाले लोग, उनको मिलने वाली सुविधाएं, उनके हक, उनके अवसर, इन सब में वो अन्याय का शिकार हुआ होता है।
The Prime Minister further said that government officers posted in difficult or backward districts should consider themselves privileged for the opportunity to bring positive change.
हम बैकवर्ड डिस्ट्रिक्ट बोले कि एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट बोले, देखिए साइकोलॉजिकली बहुत फर्क होता है। हमने हमारी शब्दमाला सकारात्मक बनाना बहुत जरूरी है। वे भी पूरी देर हमें एक पॉजिटिव थिंकिंग के लिए कारण बन जाती है। अगर वो हम करते हैं तो आप देखिए आपके अगल बगल में भी उसका प्रभाव नजर आता है।
The Prime Minister also added that the over 100 backward districts will be monitored on various development parameters for the coming 3 months. The event was organized keeping in view Modi's vision of creating a new India by 2022. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Some news on the economy now, where the GDP growth during 2017-18 has been estimated at 6.5% as compared to 7.1% in 2016-17. This is less than the government's estimate of 7%. Announcing the estimates, Chief Statistician TCA Anant said that agriculture, forestry and fishing is likely to touch 2.1% in the current fiscal from 4.9% in the preceding year. He said that the growth in manufacturing sector is also expected to decelerate to 4.6% this fiscal, down from 7.9% in 2016-17. However, electricity, gas, water supply and other utility services sector is expected to grow by 7.5% as compared to growth of 7.2% in 2016-17. The construction sector is also expected to grow by 3.6% as compared to growth of 1.7% in the last fiscal. Meanwhile, the growth rate in per capita income is estimated at 5.3% during 2017-18 as against 5.7% in the previous year.
फर्स्ट क्वार्टर में 5.7 आ गई थी, सेकेंड क्वार्टर में 6.3 थी। अब आप उसी को यदि देखते हुए इससे आकलन लगाए कि हम अगले 2 क्वार्टर के लिए क्या अंदाज लगा रहे हैं, तो अगले 2 क्वार्टर के लिए मैं ग्रोथ का अंदाज 7% लगा रहा हूं। तो मतलब जो मैंने सेकंड क्वार्टर के टाइम पे बोला था कि ये इंक्रीज का ट्रेंड मेंटेन रहेगा, वो इसमें दर्शा रहा है।
Well, in other news now, Aviation Minister Ashok Gajapati Raju reacted on Friday to the parliamentary panel report on airlines in India. He said the proposal suggests going back to an older regime wherein prices were set by the government. Tabled in Parliament on Thursday, the report suggests the government to fix limits for airline tickets and cancellation charges. Here's more.
A day after the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Transport, Tourism and Culture called for a fixed ceiling on airline fares, Civil Aviation Minister Ashok Gajapati Raju said the pricing is based on international practices.
Dynamic pricing is there. So, world over it is there, it's with us. So the prices keep varying. Now, if you're thinking of floors and caps, means you'll go to the old regime where government used to fix rates earlier. You'll go back to that regime.
The panel tabled a report in Parliament on Thursday, making several suggestions to stop surge pricing by airlines in India. It noted that around festivals and for bookings made closer to the date of travel, some airlines charge more than 10 times the advance booking fare. It even called it rampant exploitation. The panel said economic considerations alone cannot be the criteria for pricing, while stating that a mechanism followed in developed countries may not be suitable for India. Headed by Trinamool Congress MP Derek O'Brien, the panel also noted that some private airlines deliberately created long queues at check-in counters, forcing passengers to miss scheduled flights and compelling them to buy tickets at exorbitant prices for the next flight. Besides this, the panel also accused carriers of not passing the fall in aviation turbine fuel costs to customers.
TF prices are world over. The same thing. Now, different countries have different reactions to it. In India, what has happened? World over, ATF prices came down. India moved from 9th place to the 3rd place in domestic aviation in the world. So, different countries, different people, different these things, they react differently.
Some other recommendations of the panel included restraining airlines from charging more than 50% of the base fare on cancellation. It also raised complaints of non-availability of food and water on board low-cost airlines. Citing recent incidents of alleged mistreatment of passengers by the airline staff, the parliamentary panel suggested rigorous training for the crew and staff members. Industry experts, however, say the report may not lead to drastic changes since aviation is a deregulated sector. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some international news. Now, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj is on a 2-day visit to Indonesia. She received a warm traditional welcome on her arrival in Jakarta on Friday. Swaraj was received by senior officials of the Indian Embassy and Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. She later called on Indonesian Vice President Muhammad Yusuf Kalla and also held talks with her Indonesian counterpart to discuss ways to strengthen the strategic partnership between the two nations. India and Indonesia have agreed to work together on issues of strategic stability. The understanding to this effect was reached in a joint commission meeting between the two countries. Swaraj, who is on a 3-nation tour, will also visit Singapore and is expected to inaugurate the regional Pravasi Bharatiya Divas of ASEAN countries on January 7th. A 3-nation visit is a part of the government's efforts to hold bilateral interactions in various sectors with the countries of Southeast Asian region within the framework of India's Act East policy.
We agreed to develop synergic relationship to harness the potential of the Indo-Pacific region and to meet the challenges that the region faces. We unequivocally condemned terrorism in all its forms, manifestations, irrespective of its motivation and origin. We expressed our strong opposition to any selective approaches to deal with this global menace.
On the bilateral cooperation in the area of political, defense and security cooperation, we discussed ways to broaden our cooperation, including through expediting the finalization of Defense Cooperation Agreement, DCA, implementation of joint development and production in the defense industry, strengthening maritime security cooperation, including cooperation against piracy and illegal fishing.
Staying on with international news now, in a development that could lead to improvement of relations with North Korea, South Korea has confirmed that Pyongyang has accepted an offer to attend high-level talks next week. The meeting on the 9th of January will focus on finding a way for North Korean athletes to attend the Winter Olympic Games in South Korea in February. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said this week that sending a delegation to the Games will be a good opportunity to show unity of the people. The meeting is expected to be held at Panmunjom on the border. Although it's not yet clear who will be attending, this will be the first high-level talk since December 2015. South Korea's President Moon Jae-in has previously said that he sees the Winter Olympics as a groundbreaking chance to improve relations between the Koreas. Meanwhile, Japan has sounded a note of caution about the planned talks between North and South Korea, saying the North would continue developing its weapons program and Tokyo will remain vigilant.
우리 측이 제의한 1월 9일 판문점 평화의 집 회담 제안을 수락을 했고요. 회담 개최와 관련한 실무적인 문제들은 문서 교환 방식으로 협의하기로 했습니다.
北朝鮮は過去類似対話のフェーズがあったり、あるいは様々な挑発的なフェーズがありますが、いずれにしてもその間も確実に北朝鮮は核ミサイルの開発を継続しておりました。私どもとしては警戒監視を強める、警戒監視を弱める、そのような思いは全く取っておりません。
And finally, some sports news now, where the first test match of the three-match series between India and South Africa began in Newlands, Cape Town. The Indian bowlers were the pick of the match as they restricted South Africa to just 286 in their first innings. AB de Villiers scored 65 runs while South African skipper Faf du Plessis scored 62. India got the initial breakthrough at the very beginning of the match as Bhuvneshwar Kumar picked the opening batsman Dean Elgar on a duck on his very third delivery of the match. Bhuvneshwar Kumar was the pick of the bowlers for the Indian side as he picked 4 wickets, while Ravichandran Ashwin took 2 wickets. Well, that's it on this newscast. Have a good evening.